What is going on, people? This is Sean from Room 9 Podcast. I got a little audio clip coming up. I just kind of the other day was playing around with editing some audio, and I decided to just kind of say a few things was on my mind, and I wasn't even going to do anything with it other than practice editing skills. But I decided, it has a little halfway decent message anyway, and I might as well throw it up there. I guess about the first 5 minutes I start talking about importance of journaling and kind of reflecting on things, but I ended up having to pause it because my daughter called me and I got into some other things. So that's kind of why it was a sudden change. I was going to edit it out and all that, but I figured, I'd keep a lot of the rawness and the originality in there from the original recording. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for your support as always. And don't forget to get on YouTube, search Room 9 Podcast, and subscribe to our channel for all the recent episodes. All right, guys. Thank you. Peace. What is going on, everybody? This is Sean from Room 9 Podcast. Just kind of doing a little daily journal, audio journal entry. I guess that's what it's called. But I was just want to share a few things, man. I was just rereading. I started a journal when I was out at Horizon Village in about the second week in July. I think I got out there July 12th, something along those lines. But I was going through my journal entries, and I've realized how important journal entries can actually be. It was really awesome kind of going through and just seeing how I've changed and how much I've really worked on. I was reading a lot of different things about, noticing parts about me that I needed to fix why I was there. And I can see as I was reading day by day that I was doing it, I could see how much I was changing and growing, which is super encouraging because I feel like there's that point where we don't see ourselves change. We don't feel like we're changing. Analogy I always like to use was when you have a dog and it's a puppy, and your dog's, run around and your friends see your dog, and all of a sudden they're gone for a month, and they come back and see the dog for the first time in a while, and they're like, holy crap, this dog got huge. And meanwhile, this whole time you're with the dog every day, and you don't see any of that growth in the dog. Like, really? Oh, the dog's that big? I didn't think the dog got that big. It can't be that much bigger. And then people notice it when they're not around, and they come back around, and they notice growth a lot quicker. But we can't find that in ourselves lots of times. We cannot see the growth in us, and we start to feel like that we're not doing anything as an individual. We start to feel like we're being stagnant and just kind of going back into bad habits. So one of the things I think we have to remind ourselves on a daily basis is to compare ourselves to who we were yesterday, not to someone else's today. And that will keep us in this, all right, well, I was here 2 days ago. So let's take this somewhere else. Where am I now? Where have I come from? Who was I yesterday? Who am I today? And I think as we start doing that and making a habit out of it, we'll start really starting to appreciate how much growth we are actually obtaining on a daily basis. It's tough. I mean, we don't like doing it. We don't like finding the good things in us just as we don't like finding the bad things in us. But for some reason, we can still find the bad things at a much faster rate than the good things. And when we start doing good things, I think consistently, and if we stop noticing these things that we have changed and the growth that we are obtaining every day, we stop that. If we don't notice that every day, then it becomes almost like an expectation. Like, all right, I've been doing this. For instance, let's take something simple like make my bed every day. Literally make my bed. Don't mean that in any kind of, metaphor or analogy or whatever. Just literally get up and make sure my blankets and pillows are in nice order before I tend to the rest of my day. And if you do that over and over again, eventually you just stop saying, oh, I made my bed today. Good job. I at least made my bed today. But you get pissed off at yourself the one day you don't make it. The hell, I suck. I'm stupid. I can't do anything right. Why am I even bother trying? I should have been doing this. But you forget about the freaking 3 months prior to that every day you faithfully got up and made your bed. So I encourage everybody just to continuously take inventory of these good things that you're doing. Don't forget about the things you need to change, but that's a different topic for a different day. But just remember all these things that you have changed since you've come this far. Since jail, since my 28-day rehab, since Horizon Village, now I'm in an Oxford house. I cannot forget, you cannot forget the things that we do every day to change for the better. I mean, as soon as you start doing that, or stop doing that, I should say, as soon as you stop doing that, you just get into this mode of, oh my God, I'm not doing anything. What am I doing with my life? 33 years old, not doing a damn thing. So I will be right back in a second. All right, well, I am back after that brief break. I'm going to actually just randomly and suddenly switch gears because, well, why not? That's what I can do when I'm just sitting here by myself on a Friday night having coffee and doing my thing that I do, which is this right now. I had a phone call from my daughter. It is her birthday today. Just turned 7. And I kind of want to shift gears to that because, I'm just going to talk about it. I have 2 children. My son is almost 13. He'll be 13 in February. My daughter just turned 7. One of my biggest things was, dealing with my addiction, dealing with the guilt of a failed marriage, of a failed relationship. And really it was just a result of, being too young, getting married at too young of an age. I was probably, how old was I when I met Michelle, which is now my ex-wife? I met her, I think I was 20, 21. I was definitely 20 because I remember we went to a concert for my 21st birthday down in Florida. But I met her, and I think so much of it was I played the, I'm gonna find somebody who's hurt and I can fix you kind of thing, which anybody who is aware of that happening in a relationship knows how that always turns out. And I stuck it through for a while. She got pregnant. I think that was before my 21st birthday, yeah. So I was young, and I didn't even know. I mean, I say most 20-year-olds, early 20s, you don't even know who you are. There's so much more experience and growth. I mean, there's always growth in life, but there's so much more of just finding some sort of, grasp on your individuality at that age that I don't feel. I mean, it can happen, obviously, but being in a serious relationship like that, having a kid that early is, puts a lot on somebody. But that being said, I was, super young. So I met her, Michelle, in Florida. And then coming back from that, we were down there. It was around my son's first birthday. We decided to move up to Buffalo. I mean, I guess as I kind of conned her and manipulated her into coming to Buffalo because I was done in Florida. So that happened. She had no family, no friends, no nothing up here. So it was a good move, a bold move by her. And I think to this day I still appreciate that she was able to do that for me. Coming towards, the end of our relationship, and just to go to work at a friggin' pizzeria, which is sad enough in itself, but it gets sadder. I go to work at a pizzeria, come home, I drink my beers, I do my thing. I'm a dad, which, by the way, is one thing I was actually good at in my life. But, I played that role, and I just did did the sports thing. I loved it. I was into the Bills, the Buffalo Sabres, that typical yelling at the TV. And anybody who knows me, who's only known me the last few years, would probably laugh hearing me say about the sports thing because I don't watch any sports. But what happened was I ended up really just kind of having this big mental and psychological change of, man, the best way to help the universe is to work on yourself. That's the only thing you have any potential of changing anyway. So this is what I'm going to do. And I started intertwining and, adding this term, vulnerability. Vulnerability I added to my life. And that was a shock to my ex-wife. I don't think she knew how to deal with it. I don't think she knew how to handle it. She had this very predictable, every day, every weekend. All right, Sunday, beers, football. Monday through Friday, work. hang out, do the family thing. You know, it was routine. We didn't talk about much. If there was an issue, we wouldn't talk to each other till we both just calmed down, and we didn't even ever discuss the problem. If there was a problem there, we were quiet until it was ignored long enough for us to both be over it. But all of a sudden now you have this guy who doesn't want to watch sports, who wants to talk about his feelings all of a sudden. He wants to learn how to cry. He wants to learn how to do nice things. And I wanted to basically end up making her my best friend. I mean, my mother always said, whoever you're going to marry, make sure she's your best friend first. And I didn't listen, but I at least tried now. Now I'm trying. And it was just a big shock to her. And ever since that point, our relationship just kind of got more and more blocked off. I don't think there's any coming back from the damage of an early 20-year-old man will do in a relationship with somebody he doesn't truly deep down want to be with, even if he didn't know at the time he didn't want to be with her. So I don't think there's any coming back from that. And I just woke up one day like I shouldn't be happy. I shouldn't be excited when my wife leaves for a vacation for a week without me, and then bummed out when she comes back. Like, there's something off about that. Something very off and something very wrong. And I just couldn't do it anymore. It did not feel right in my heart. And to look a woman in the eyes who loves you and just tell her, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I literally ripped her heart out of her chest and stomped on it in front of her. And that's where it was. It was just right there on the ground. I remember that was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my existence. And boy, did I feel guilt over it. I was overran by guilt for not only hurting her, for failing, feeling like I failed as a son, feeling like I failed as a brother, feeling like I failed as a husband, and definitely feeling failed like a father. Because I could see how broken she was, I ended up, biggest mistake. One of the biggest mistakes in my life. Arguably, maybe it's not a mistake. Maybe there's some good that came from it, but I ended up letting her move down to Florida. I just didn't want her to be alone. And through all this, I knew she was going to need some kind of support. And I naively let her move down to Florida thinking, well, since I let this happen, she'll work with me. She'll allow me to be with the kids, see the kids, talk to them whenever I want, do things like that. And boy, I was just not in the right state of mind to make a decision like this because I did not think it all the way through. Because as I mentioned earlier, I was a great father. I was great at it. And I should still have my kids around up here in Buffalo, but I don't. But the guilt was one of my biggest things. I was overrun by it, and I didn't know how to handle it. I remember I had borderline insomnia. I was just anxious constantly, like shaking, anxiety. It just overpoured onto every part of my life, this guilt and shame and feeling like a complete, utter failure. And, that ended up being one of the biggest reasons of my use, was to really learn how to numb that. Like, I just didn't want to feel it anymore. It just get away from me. I don't want to deal with it anymore. And that's when drugs really started becoming more of a friend for me. So, I mean, that's kind of a little bit of my story of how I just ended up in this realm of toxicity, if you will, of this just guilt weighing on me. And if you guys ever feel that, I'm sure every human being has felt it, just that weight. And how do you get off of it? How do you get it off of you? And that's the $1 million question. And I have found ways to really start knowing, you know what? We all fuck up. We all screw up. We all do something to hurt somebody else at least once in our life. And we just have to grow from it. If there's anything I can say, because there's not much you can say when somebody's going through hell. But if I can say anything, there's 2 things. 1, weep, cry. Do not hold that back. I don't care how big of a dude you are. I don't care who you are. Learn to cry. Learn to weep. And then the second one is, as you're weeping, as you're on the ground, as you're flat on your face, do the best you can to lift your head up and find ways to learn from whatever it is that has happened. Whether it's a mistake you made or a mistake somebody's made towards you, or whether it's just losing somebody to death or to a sickness, just learn to lift your head up. Because when that head is down, we just sit in self-pity, and self-pity is hell. Self-pity will make you do stupid things. Self-pity will make you go to drugs. Self-pity will make you seclude yourself from everybody. Self-pity will make you wonder why nobody else is feeling or knows what you're going through, and you're the only one who can go through it, which is bullshit. And we all know it. What you're going through right now, somebody else has gone through it. Somebody else has been through worse. So we have to become more self-aware about our self-pity. We have to become more aware about our guilt and having to be toxic guilt. Because I believe guilt is a tool to let us adjust our course as we're sailing through the storm, but it can become very toxic if we let it. So really, we have to learn. We have to learn from these mistakes. We have to learn from our guilt. We have to learn from our shame. We have to be vulnerable. We have to cry. I mean, these are things if we don't learn how to do, if I don't continuously learn how to work on these things, I'm going to sink back into the slum hole, to sink back into the gutter of despair and of agony and of pain, and that feeling of being alone will never subside. Thank you guys for listening once again. I appreciate you enduring these last 18 and a half minutes of audio of me sharing what's on my heart. So I love each and every one of you guys. Thank you. Peace out. Yo, yo, yo.